Welcome to your most favorite channel, Heartbeat. My name is Dr. Amrit Kejriwal. This channel is mainly meant for MBBS students, postgraduates, medical professionals, and all those who may find it a bit more easy. It is an attempt to make the complicated medical sciences more simplified and easier for understanding. Coming to the cardiovascular system examination, clinical examination. First of all, there are prerequisites for the cardiovascular system examination. Patient should be relaxed. Maximum exposure of the chest and back, and clothing to be removed. Preferably the patient should be in 30-degree supine position. Suspected or confirmed cases, patients to lie in left side at a 45 to 60 degree with left hand elevated. This elevated means it's below the head. As it is said, the basic things: inspection, palpation, percussion, and auscultation. These are the four headings under which the cardiovascular system is to be examined. Coming to inspection, you have to make a keen observation of the chest wall. It may be right from front or tangential or from the shoulders, from above. A tangential light or pen light is quite useful. Retraction is better observed than outward movements. Inspection, you have to inspect mainly the precordium, and then precordium is the anterior chest wall overlying heart and great vessels. Look for abnormalities of chest wall on inspection. You may see a scar which may be midline, which is suggestive of bypass surgery. It may be submammary, suggestive of mitral valve replacement, or infraclavicular, suggestive of pacemaker insertion. Besides this, there may be other scars also. Look for any bulge or depression. Look for the position of the apex beat. Look for visible pulsations and look for dilated veins. Now coming to the visible pulsations, they are located on the chest at various places. Suprasternal. This is due to aortic dilatation, regurgitation, hyperkinetic state, or thyroid gland or artery. Look at the second left intercostal space, pulmonary artery or enlarged left atrium. Look at the left parasternal edge, right ventricular enlargement or left atrial enlargement. Look at juxtaapical, which is due to ventricular aneurysm. Right outside of the chest, you have dextrocardia and right atrial enlargement. And epigastric region, you have the right ventricular hypertrophy, aortic aneurysm, or liver pulsations. Coming to palpation, stand on the patient's right side. Use palms, maximal metacarpals, and fingers to be used. Finger pads, they help in the localization and assessment of left and right ventricular activity. Palms and proximal metacarpals, they help in the initial localization of palpable cardiac movements and detection of precordial thrills. So this is our hand. So here from the fingertips you can find out the localized pulsations. From the metacarpals you can feel the thrills, and from this part you can feel the hips or lifts. Pressure. How much pressure to apply and under which conditions you have to apply the varying pressures. So a firm pressure has to be applied for increased S1, opening snap, or a transmitted thrill. Light pressure is for palpable S3, S4 or double systolic apex impulse. Precordial events have to be recorded and seen with palpation. This is done better with simultaneous palpation of the right carotid artery with left hand, or keeping hand or visualizing the apex beat. A person has to see this and identify each activity to be systolic or diastolic if possible. Coming to the palpation, palpation consists of 4 parts: apex beat, parasternal heave, diastolic shock, and thrills. Apex beat is the lowermost and outermost point where the cardiac impulse is felt. It's felt in the systole. It can be tapping in character or heaving. It can be well sustained and ill sustained. There are many words to describe the apex beat. I'll be making a separate lecture only on apex beat in subsequent lectures. Parasternal heave, it is felt in the left parasternal region. Systolic impulse signifies right ventricular enlargement, and keep palm or heel on hand with wrist upwards parallel to lower left sternal border. The finger should not be touching the chest wall, and only the heel of the hand should be kept in parallel with the left parasternal border. So if you've got here, see, this is the way the hand should be kept. Finger should not be touching the chest wall. Diastolic shock, felt in the second left intercostal space. It's a palpable P2, signifies pulmonary hypertension. Thrills. Thrills are loud murmurs. Murmur intensity is grade 4 to 6. Transmitted to chest wall. Felt as a vibratory sensation to the palm during examination. Location of the thrill at the apex, you get mitral regurgitation and hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy thrills. Lower left sternal border, you get the VSD thrills. Cardiac base, you get the pulmonary stenosis and aortic stenosis thrills. At the apex, you get a diastolic thrill, which is due to mitral stenosis, better felt in the left lateral position. Lower left sternal border, you get the acute AR, aortic regurgitation, which is usually due to a perforated or ruptured aortic cusp. Percussion, not a useful and necessary procedure. May help in detection of apex beat or left border of the heart. In large pericardial effusion, apex beat may differ from percussible cardiac dullness. Auscultation of the mitral area, tricuspid area, aortic area, pulmonary area, left axilla, neck and supraclavicular region and back should be done. These four areas are mandatory. These are my personal choices. Coming to the main 4 areas: mitral area, tricuspid area, aortic area and pulmonary area. I personally start auscultation from mitral area and then proceed clockwise and note down findings of each area separately. Denoting auscultatory findings. Note findings of all 4 areas separately. See the first heart sound, second heart sound, murmurs between first and second heart sound, then murmurs between the second and first heart sound, and then 5 different sounds: ejection click, opening snap, S3, S4 and pericardial knock. Ejection click is systolic, all these 4 other events are diastolic. So if you want to identify them, then first of all we have to find out which sound is first heart sound, which heart sound is second heart sound. So approach. First of all, differentiate between the first and second heart sound, which is essential for cardiac examination. If you cannot distinguish between first and second heart sound, it will be very difficult and you will not be able to understand which event is systolic and diastolic. So this is a very important part. You can do it simultaneous palpation of the right common artery or keeping hand on the apex beat. The heart sound which precedes the right coronary artery systole is the first heartbeat, and the one which comes after the right carotid artery pulsation is diastole. Coming to the heart sounds auscultation. Once identified, appreciate abnormalities. S1 at mitral area, S2 at aortic and pulmonary areas. Check the intensity, check for S2 abnormalities. See the murmurs, systolic murmurs between S1 and S2. Mid-systole you get an aortic stenosis or pulmonary stenosis, and left ventricular outflow tract is obstruction or right ventricular outflow tract obstruction. Pansystolic MTV, favorite music channel, mitral regurgitation, tricuspid regurgitation and ventricular septal defect. Flow murmurs can also be seen, and innocent murmurs can be seen in increased cardiac output, anemia and thyrotoxicosis. Diastolic murmurs are between S2 and S1, seen in aortic regurgitation or pulmonary regurgitation, mitral stenosis or tricuspid stenosis, Pre-systolic movements due to atrial contraction. Continuous movements can be seen in PDA, coronary AV fistula, or sinus of Valsalva to right atrium. Now this is just the cardiac. See over here and here you get S1. This is S2, the two components, aortic and pulmonary. S3, S4, ejection click, opening snap, pericardial knock.